Yeah. So first thing, my name is John Gant. My 24/7 day job is I run a global conservation development organization out of Washington, D.C., ICCF, and you can go and see it at internationalconservation.org. We work with some of the wealthiest families in the world, from Bezos, Mars, Walton. We also work with very big foundations, such as Oak Foundation. We also work with about 50 of the biggest corporations in the world, from Volkswagen to ExxonMobil to Microsoft, et cetera. And in discussions with several of our big partner NGOs, and just looking at the landscape, what is clear, seems pretty clear to me, is people want to get involved in what they call impact investing. The problem with impact investing is that you effectively become a philanthropist on most of these types of initiatives rather than actually getting your money back. So what starts off is, hey, we can save the world and make money too. Buyer beware. I think those are very, very few and far between ideas. I was introduced to ghost fishing by our strategic ghost fishing solutions by our strategic partner in common, World Wildlife Fund, the gentleman who runs oceans there, several months ago. And after talking to Leif, the founder, it was clear that this was something I thought had a lot of legs, specifically because it could bring very good returns on solving a very large problem out there, not just for fishermen, but also the environment. So as Marty said, ghost fishing, you can go to the next slide if you want to. Ghost fishing in general is a significant problem globally, costing in the billions of dollars of the year to fishermen and the fishing industry. Ghost fishing is very simple. You are a fisherman, you put your net out there and you lose it. And when you do lose it, that net's still catching stuff. And that can be from fish to mammals like whales, et cetera, and getting caught all around coral. So that first picture we showed you in the first slide is a great example of the issue. It also helps bring together a lot of the other plastics and other creating those patches you see a lot around the Pacific and other places. So this is one of the plastic issues in the ocean. These big pieces of plastic breaking down, their binders are breaking down, creating microplastics. So this is something that is a big health concern globally. What you can see specifically from these numbers is that if you're a fisherman, forget about the environmental consequences of ghost fishing. This has enormous consequences to your bottom line, whether you're the largest fishing group in the world or you're an individual fisherman. You are having to pay out of pocket tremendous amounts of money when your fishing gear goes astray, which happens a lot. Unpredictability of the ocean, sometimes lack of maintenance on fishing gear, and just the overall issues working in very hostile, unknown environments. So what we see right now is that there is a big problem out there and there's not really a solution to go after it. Take us to the...
So it's about a $35,000 problem?
Yeah. So
that you can point out directly.
But the reason the solution was thought of is Leif, our founder, ran into this himself. So Leif is a very successful Norwegian businessman in real estate, former investment banker, and in his own experience with his father out there in Norway, they've lost I think a $10,000-$15,000 net, and said, well, now what? This, we can afford it, but how could someone else who doesn't have those type of resources consistently afford this? So the idea was to put together a device, a very simple device that you can attach to the fishing net, that when that fishing net goes below a certain depth, when you set it to various parameters and it's effectively lost, that a buoy will pop up to the surface and generate a GPS point, if you will, through cellular or satellite communication. And that through the fishermen, therefore, would start knowing where their net has been misplaced and can, if possible, go and retrieve it. Now, of course, you won't be able to retrieve every single net, but you'll be able to retrieve the vast majority of them and where they are. This keeps, obviously, the fishermen from having to go and spend additional money to go and purchase new nets and the time that it'll take from losing time fishing for that. But also, it also protects the ocean in getting these nets as quickly as they're lost before they start wrapping themselves around coral, et cetera. You have a question to begin with?
Is there an additional tag on the net itself? So when it breaks away, you've got one that pops up the signal and then one down below so you can find the net?
Yeah, so it's connected. So effectively, the buoy that's coming to the surface is connected.
Thanks all the way down.
Yeah, so good question. So it can shoot right back up. So you can see kind of the connection right here. Now, at first, of course, we got very excited about this as a solution. And then the idea is how are we going to make it economical where there could be a company that generates revenue. So if you go to the next slide here. We created a business model, basically costs us less than a couple $100 to produce each of these buoys. And there's some patent on that. And then there's a subscription service. So effectively, we are renting out this buoy for each of the nets and that a fisherman or group might have. And then we're doing a subscription model on a cell phone or tablet, et cetera, that they're paying $99 per month per buoy to be able to utilize it.
What does it cost to maintain that signal? Like, I mean, so when it's rented, is it like $5 a month to set?
We're gonna get to the numbers in the end, but yes. So, but the buoy itself again is something that will be owned by GFS, and I'll get to talking to you about the specific numbers. I like to just kind of put it on the screen to do that. But this business model is something that is, fishermen are able to afford. You can also think about governments wanting to buy this because they need to come up to their own regulatory necessities. I think you're going to see more governments requiring technology like this in the future because of the problems that they've had. We've already been talking to Abu Dhabi and some other governments as well. I think there's going to be definitely a push for regulation when those in power know that there's technology that exists to stop this.
Maybe you can give a discussion about is there a discussion page here that discusses what the governing body is or like? Because I mean, we've actually been involved in some fishing ventures in the past.
So you have various different governing bodies for fishing. You have, of course, the municipality. So if you look in the United States, for instance, about every single county, every single municipality, along the coast can have their own different regulatory bodies. Then you've got the state. Then you've got, of course, the federal government as well. As you get out into the open ocean, the United States is not a sign of the law of the seas, but you have a lot of other international treaties and other international bodies out there that can regulate, suggest, incentivize use of this type of technology. Let's go to the next slide really quickly, and then we'll go back for questions. So, talking about impact, this just shows a little bit of the UN Sustainable Development Goals and various aspects to that. I want to get back to talking also about the data, et cetera, that's created, because there's a lot of other different businesses that this can generate very quickly. Just want to go.
Next slide.
Yes, next slide. So this is us in the competitive field so far. So there are other similar types of ideas out there, but there's nobody that really, we are not available in the market yet. We're going to be available fourth quarter this year. But other than that, we're able to provide the market with every single variable that it would and demands that it requires. One of the interesting things that we will soon talk about, especially in the competitive aspect of this is just the collection of data and the ownership of data by GFS. So first, this data, of course, you say, oh, well, this is great. You can figure out where people are losing their nets. Well, the device allows itself to have so many more types of different sensors on it. So rather than just being for data that you're going to get from nets being pushed off, ocean acidity, ocean temperature, and also with various sonar, you can start seeing where there's a submarine that's coming by. So now if you're putting tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of these in the ocean, which you will, you're really starting to get a complete net. I was talking to some people yesterday at the dinner about this, a complete net of awareness of other types of data there. And that's really where we've been approached by some of the big defense companies and others that are very, very interested in this from a completely national security standpoint, and where they can put some of their technology on this as well. There can also be, very much direct, and we're working on some other technologies around GFS, direct monitoring of undersea cables and other types of infrastructure undersea that these can, really look after. So there's a lot of opportunities on that. But the data itself is something that would be very, very interesting. It would be in the ownership of the GFS team.
And you can sell that data to governments and
absolutely
bodies.
Absolutely. And not only sell that data, we can utilize it ourselves. And I think we had just had a good discussion about investing in various companies that actually can crunch data and really tell you what it means. So I think we have the ability to partner with those types of organizations to do that. And that's why we've had some of them even reach out to us. It's very interesting. And it goes all the way on the spectrum from environmentalists to fishermen to national security, infrastructure, et cetera.
So we have a question from the audience. What are the demonstrable returns relative to costs for the fishermen? Were there companies outside of compliance and regulations?
Well, the cost of even a relatively small fishing net is probably about $10,000 to $15,000. So if you look at putting $99 a month, you're looking at about $1,000 a year. So you're looking at, conservatively 1/15, you're effectively buying insurance on your net. Insurance companies obviously will like this as well for when you're trying to
insurers insure the equipment today?
I think so. I don't think there's any of that. Of course, they insure the boats, and they like their premiums getting paid, which means they want their boats to be making money. If you'd like to go to the next slide. So I mentioned we've got two strategic partnerships that we're working with. World Wildlife Fund, which is, they did a study about 5 years ago. Go back. WWF is second most well-known logo in the world, next to Coca-Cola. We are working with them to be able to deploy thousands of units to some of their projects in Ecuador and other places in Africa. So you see there's going to be a large NGO philanthropic desire for this, for fishermen that potentially can't afford them, where they've got philanthropists and others that really want to stop GFS and to also make sure that there's sustainable fishing in their areas. And then Good Machine Studio. I don't know if anybody knows Good Machine, but it's a great company over in California, backed by Eric Schmidt and other family offices, working on accelerating products that actually help have more than just one use of just making money, but also are out there solving a problem. So we have great relationships with both. In fact, Good Machine has actually come in as a partner already on the financing side. You want to go to the next slide? Put together a pretty strong international team and board. What you can see about it is basically it's a combination of the national security industry, government, as well as conservation. So there's me with a little bit more hair. We've got Admiral Gallaudet, ran NOAA, a lot of background, of course, is national security. David Stewart, he ran, was Paul Allen's right hand over at Vulcan, and is involved in a lot of different family offices. Dan over here, FATA, Global Government Affairs, Lockheed Martin, ran NATO out of the Pentagon. Dave Solomon with Good Machine, and Monica Medina, who was effectively our international environment minister for the Biden administration over at State Department, and ran WCS here in New York, if anybody knows the Bronx Zoo, as well. So good start with the board. And the idea is to move to Washington, D.C. and actually be in D.C. where we have a lot of other conservation, national security players. I think three largest conservation groups, as well as ocean groups in the world, are based in D.C. Of course, you've got World Bank, all the embassies, but you also have all the national security and others. So I think if we want to move the slide deck along here.
Keeps jumping.
Yeah, it keeps jumping. So this gives you kind of an idea of where we are. What's really interesting is that with very, very few units sold, we were able to actually have positive revenue and cash flow. And so we're going to start that in 2024 Q4, and by 2025 we're making money. So very, very quick turnaround in that, and then scaling beyond that. Eventually we'll do an exit, but kind of gives you an idea of how fast this could grow and where this product is needed along all these different value chains.
Okay, the financing on the next page.
Yeah. So right now, doing Series A, Leif has put in so far $2 million of his own money. It's coming from us. Good Machines, $2 million in-kind equity. So right now we're looking for another $6 million, and of course negotiating, 10%, et cetera, what the equity aspect of that is option one, and of course convertible debt idea of what it might look like in option two.
What's the use of proceeds?
So the use of proceeds will to be really sales team is absolutely key. So if you have a world-class sales team, I think the tech is basically finished. So it's really about being able to deploy this to governments, fishing companies, nonprofits, et cetera. That's the majority of the funding proceeds, sales team.
Anything else, or do you want to open up for questions?
Yeah, please. So
what differentiates you from the competition?
go back to the slide.
Which slide?
The competition slide.
With all the.
So the first thing I'll say is that as we've all been in life, we've seen tech that's far superior, although I think ours is the best, but far superior, but the team's not there. I think we've got a great team. I think we've got the business development angle, even in the board, et cetera, is second to none. And I think we've got good partnerships with both Good Machine and WWF. Nobody else has. And I think that gives us a big leg up. From a tech standpoint, you can actually see, what some of these others are doing. Most of them, like us, haven't gotten to market yet. A few that have, they really don't provide the other types of things that our technology or our product does. We probably looking at some mergers and acquisitions, maybe of some of these as we move along, and that was part of the plan, but we'll see how it works with sales.
Have you gone to the manufacturers to put your product on their nets as they're selling them?
I think we've done that, yeah. It's a good idea. I don't think we've had that conversation with any net manufacturer, have we?
Question: how many nets are around the world to make this work?
Oh,
I mean, how many nets per boat? How many boats per country?
I mean, it all depends. I mean, it depends, exactly what you're catching for, and size, et cetera. I mean, it goes from quite smaller ships to very large, but what do you say in total nets globally? I think I think we have a figure. That's where we're getting our 10 billion figures from.
Yeah, so here you can see the listed commercial fishing vessels. This is an areas where we will define our patent. So approximately a small fishing vessel needs 10 minutes for given at swim lines, tripods. So here you can see the amount of fishing vessels in each region.
So about 2 million
Yeah, roughly.
roughly.
Yeah. Of course, there's also a scalability in the device. We can scale it up and down in size, depth. We can adjust it to the South Asian market, but also the Arctic market, right? So
It doesn't just have to be fishing equipment. It could be like any and every type of boat equipment. I mean, there's all kinds of regulatory things that could happen.
But we're talking about nets.
yeah.
No, I'm just saying that, so if you think about it as a platform instead of as just a device.
So if I've
becomes
got a
something
net,
different.
I'm a fisherman, I have a net, right? And you're taking information from my buoy. Why are you not paying me to get information for you?
Well, for one thing, we're giving you the ability to track your net.
I'm paying for the service. You're taking information from my service. I'm paying you.
Well,
They just share that.
There's potentially, there's also, I was talking earlier today with part of the team, which said, this could be the information itself is so lucrative, we might just give the service for free. So they might actually say, hey, I get a free service out of this, or a very low cost service.
Nothing the business one.
It could be as we move forward, because there is a lot of it's a good amount of profit and revenue. You don't need, and of course you're gonna have lower costs as you manufacture these things. But once you set this up, on this, I mean, there's a lot of costs coming in, fixed costs, and then you can look at ways.
For an investment, once you look for data.
Yeah.
That's why we're getting everybody from national security calling us. I mean, that's why we're just kind of overloaded with calls with that, and talking to even PE firms and other funds that are specifically investing in national security, maritime as well.
It's also important that Smart is this is a platform, right? So the GFS device, it's just one specific device for one specific type of fishing. So there's a lot of R&D going on here. There are also, as John said, some M&A activities that will come further down the line. But it's the platform that you must stay in, the data collection. That's really important.
You don't need to be looking, you might have a specific part of your portfolio that's for impact investing. And so this is great because it might, it can really play on the same level of playing field as, non-impact investments and returns, et cetera. But you could have no impact section in your portfolio. And this, I think, makes a very strong case. This is something that is very much needed in the market and saves the fishing industry incredible amounts of money, individual fishermen.
Is there a likely acquirer of this business?
Yeah, I mean, we have on our the idea of looking who might be interested in acquiring something like this. I think we have once talked about some of the, Garmin or some of the other larger utilizers of GPS and data collection, et cetera. But it could be, somebody who just is in the data collection business.
I think it's a great niche for a possible extrapolation into other areas. So.
Yeah, it could be a Lockheed Martin who's it could be, on the defense side as well, being able to sell to customers like this.
Any other questions? This is great, fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. And you're gonna get the full list of all the registrants and everything.
Great.
We're gonna touch base.
Great. Thanks, guys.